Good night, everybody. Jotham's Journey, Day 3. Here we go. Comfort ye. Jotham stared through blurry eyes at the man in the long black beard. A halo shone around his head, and his face glowed with the warmth of a friendly heart. Jotham's head was spinning from his fall and from starvation, and he felt as if he were tumbling into a big black hole in the ground. With the last of his strength, he reached through the fog before his eyes and gently stroked the man's face. You're an angel of the Lord?" he croaked. The man smiled broadly, revealing his crooked yellow teeth, and chuckled. "No, little one, I am no angel." Then he moved to the side to help Jotham sit up, and blinding sunlight slapped Jotham square in the face. He let out a little yelp and put his hand up to shade his eyes. "The sun," he whispered hoarsely. "The sun made your hair glow like—" "Shh, shh, I understand," the man said, "but you must rest. I will carry you back to our camp." And just before Jotham let himself fall into the deep black hole of sleep, he felt two powerful arms lift him gently off the ground. Cool water trickled down Jotham's throat. Then the smell of freshly baked bread filled his nostrils. When Jotham opened his eyes, he saw the bread, held inches from his mouth. He snapped it up faster than a frog catches a fly. He nipped the finger of the man who held the bread, the man with the long black beard, and the man let out a screech. "Careful, little one," he said, shaking his hand quickly to stop the pain. "I know you are hungry, but we have better things to eat than my finger." Jotham didn't even hear him. All he knew was the bread in his mouth, and he chewed it until he was sure he had tasted every delicious crumb. And then there was another piece of bread, and meat, and some water, and pomegranates. He hadn't seen a pomegranate for a month. He let its sweet juice run down his chin and leak from the corners of his mouth as he took huge bites. When finally his belly began to fill, Jotham looked up at the people gathered around him. He hadn't even noticed them before, but now saw the faces of men and women and children, all huddled around, looking down at him. He didn't recognize a single face, but he knew immediately just who they were by the way they dressed. "Shepherds," he said. "You're shepherds." Longbeard smiled a smile that brought out the laugh lines around his mouth and eyes. "That is true," he said, "and so, too, are you, if I be any judge." "Yes, sir," Jotham said politely. "I am Jotham of Jericho, defender of the lambs of my father." "And I," said Longbeard, "am Eliakim, son of Abijah. And who is your father, Jotham of Jericho?" "He is Asa, son of Jacob," Jotham said, drawing his shoulders up square and straight. Eliakim frowned and stroked his beard. Asa, son of Jacob. I believe I know that name." He thought for a moment, then shook his head. "Ah, well, if I have heard that name, I have long forgotten where. But now tell me, why is Jotham of Jericho out on the highway all alone? Where is your caravan?" And so Jotham told him everything, all about how he had gone off to kill a lion that was bothering the flocks, and how his parents had thought he'd been killed and so had left him behind. That part about the lion wasn't exactly true. It made Jotham feel a bit guilty, but he couldn't quite bring himself to tell his new friends that he'd been left behind because of a temper tantrum. The look on Eliakim's face showed some doubt about the lion hunting, but Jotham didn't notice and went on with his story. When finally he finished, Eliakim said, "So the great hunter kills a lion with his bare hands, then finds fear in the rocks of a canyon?" Jotham felt the blood rise in his face, embarrassed that he'd been caught in his lie. Well, I was very hungry, and everything looked so strange, and Eliakim smiled again and patted Jotham's shoulder. "And you called on the name of Jehovah, which is when I came running to help and startled you." Jotham lowered his head and nodded. "And now," Eliakim said, looking around, "you have new friends, and if you need it, a new family." Jotham raised his head again, a smile stretching from ear to ear. Eliakim quickly introduced Jotham to the rest of his clan. Jotham didn't remember most of the names, but he did remember the name of Eliakim's daughter, Tabitha. She was about Jotham's age, maybe a little younger, and was the one who had brought him the pomegranates. When the introductions were finished, Jotham finally got to ask the question that had been burning inside him. "Master Eliakim," he said, eyebrows creased into a frown, "have you seen any other caravans since yesterday?" Eliakim shook his head slowly. "Sadly, no, my friend. We have just come from the hills to the south and had only just approached this road when we heard your yell." Jotham's lip began to tremble. I was just hoping." "Yes, I understand. But you are safe now, and I say again that we will help you find your family. But even if that fails, you may stay with us as long as you wish." Jotham spent the rest of the day becoming familiar with the camp. He helped water the lambs, collected firewood, and picked out a sleeping mat and blanket with the help of Tabitha. After supper, the whole family, about 20 aunts and uncles and cousins, sat around the fire, just like Jotham's family always did. After stories of the day and a good bit of joking about, Eliakim cleared his throat and everyone fell silent. "It is written," he started without introduction, "that Jehovah shall send his anointed one to bind up the brokenhearted, to comfort all who mourn, and provide for those who grieve." And so we wait. We wait for that anointed one to appear. We wait for the Messiah to reveal himself to us. But this day, he continued, looking now towards Jotham, "this day Jehovah has brought us one who cannot wait. He has brought us one whose heart is broken, one who mourns, and one who grieves. And so," Eliakim said, looking now at the other faces in the camp, the light of the fire dancing on his own, "we ourselves must be like the Messiah to this young one. Even as we wait for Jehovah's anointed, we must act as he would. We must do what we must to bind the broken heart, comfort he who mourns, provide for him who grieves. It is thus so, and it shall be, in the name of Jehovah." As one, all those gathered round the fire said, "Selah," and it felt almost as good to Jotham as a hug from his mother. He truly did feel comforted, and his heart did ache a bit less this night. But still, as Eliakim continued to talk of the coming Messiah, Jotham's thoughts drifted back to his family. He wondered where they would be. He wondered where they were going. He wondered how much pain he had caused them. And he was still wondering later that night as he lay on his sleeping mat on the ground in front of Eliakim's tent. He gazed into the sky and let his mind wander and wonder among the stars. Just before he fell asleep, he noticed one star that was just a bit brighter than the rest, and he wondered if maybe somewhere his mother was looking at that very same star. The people of Israel had to wait many centuries before the promised Messiah appeared. In the meantime, God comforted them with the words of the prophets, words of hope and promise, words such as these recorded by Isaiah. "The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to preach the good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn and provide for those who grieve in Zion, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of gladness instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair." Isaiah 61, 1-3. These words were a comfort to the Israelites as they waited for the Messiah's coming, and they are a comfort to us today as we wait for his second coming. Because even though we may face heartache and mourning and grief in this life, we can find comfort and healing through his presence in our lives today, and the hope of a new heaven and a new earth in the future. Jotham has found kindness and love with the family of Eliakim, and it has eased the pain he feels at being separated from his family. But still, he looks forward to the day he will once again see the faces of his family, just as we look forward to the day we will see Jesus face to face. Come quickly, Lord Jesus.